Hey guys, community is at the absolute core of who we are here at Ascent. And when Ascent got started, we could get by on a general connection culture. But as God has continued to bring new people here, that simply can't cut it anymore. It's way too easy now for a person to come to Ascent and feel totally anonymous and get overwhelmed at the prospect of how do I find my people here? And that's why it is vital to the mission of this church that we make it really easy for people to find their place to belong and a place to start growing closer to Jesus. Because life is just better when it's lived together. A couple years ago, the Harvard Business Review published an article written by one of our former Surgeon Generals about loneliness. And listen to what he said. He said, there is good reason to be concerned about social connection in our current world. Loneliness is a growing health epidemic. We live in the most technologically connected age in the history of civilization, yet rates of loneliness have doubled since the 1980s. Today, over 40% of adults in America report feeling lonely. And research suggests that that real number may well be higher. Additionally, the number of people who report having a close confidant in their lives has been declining over the past few decades. He goes on after that to point out that loneliness is deeply impacting our health, and that being lonely is equivalent in its damage to your health to smoking 15 cigarettes a day, and it's actually significantly worse than obesity. Loneliness is a really big deal. And if at Ascent we are to actually care for the people who come here, we have to have a way to step into that loneliness void. And beyond just filling that loneliness void, I believe that a circle of real friendships is absolutely vital to sustained and meaningful growth towards Jesus. There's an almost ancient philosopher and mathematician, the guy who actually invented the vacuum. His name is Blaise Pascal. Listen to what he said. What else does this craving and this helplessness proclaim but that there was once in man a true happiness, of which all that now remains is the empty print and trace? This he tries in vain to fill with everything around him, seeking in things that are not there the help he cannot find in those that are. Though none can help, since this infinite abyss can be filled only with an infinite and immutable object. In other words, by God himself. Guys, I believe to the core of my being that every single person, whether they realize it or not, are desperate for something. And that thing is a rich and growing relationship with Jesus. And guys, listen, outside this church, but inside it too, there are so many people who are trudging through daily life without that relationship that they so dearly need. What they need is a group of fellow travelers to journey with them. And these core groups are where they're going to find them. Ascent exists to help everyone see Jesus clearly and find life. And that can only happen when they are gathered together. Guys, your role here is key to that happening. You are vital to the future of Ascent, and the service that you will render in the lives of the people in your group will affect both their day-to-day lives and have an impact in eternity. So have I convinced you that you matter yet? Because I'm laying it on pretty thick. But you do. Being a core group leader is a really big calling. And here are 4 ways that the work you do as a leader can help people fill that loneliness void and get moving towards Jesus. Number 1, you help people move from rows and into circles. And here's what I mean by that. Coming to church on a Sunday morning and sitting in a row is a really great thing. And we are so grateful for every person who chooses to call Ascent their Sunday morning home. It's a great place to hear from some quality teaching, to sing and worship with other people, and to start building some social connections with others. But everything that we accomplish on a Sunday morning is amplified in a core group. It's a place where you can share your own spiritual life deeply, where you move from being a passive recipient of teaching to an active participant in your engaged learning. Everything that we do on Sunday gets better when you do it in a core group. Sunday was never intended to be a destination, but for so many people, it has become one. And if you stay only there on a Sunday in a row, eventually you put a cap on your ability to grow spiritually. And if you do that, you will become stagnant, and that is something nobody wants. So the first way that you help is you help move people from rows and into circles. Here's number two. We help people move from weekly rhythms into daily rhythms. Being in a group is one of the best ways to begin to establish a daily rhythm of interaction with God. And research shows that consistent daily reflection on the Bible and prayer is the most effective way to grow in your faith. Being in a group helps people begin to do that daily in a lot of ways. Number one, it provides material. There are so many people who just don't know where to start. Your group is going to be studying something. You tell them where to start, and that makes a huge difference. Number two, it provides accountability. People know I'm going to have to go sit in group with people I like who are going to be talking about something. I want to make sure I can engage in that conversation. It's amazing what a powerful motivator that can be. And finally, it gives people a place to ask questions. There have been so many good-intentioned beginnings of people trying to journey towards God, only to run into something they didn't understand or a difficulty, and they had nobody to talk to about it. When we have someone to talk to about those issues, it allows us to keep going. Core groups are a huge help in that way. Here's the third way that being a core group leader helps people move forward. It moves people towards care and healing. Guys, when we're going through something hard in our life, the best source of care is always our immediate community. We don't want anyone at this church to suffer and hurt alone. And developing a community of people in a core group who can rally around you and care for you well is so important to us, making sure nobody feels alone in that. And here's number four. It moves us from a sense of bonus to one of transformation. And here's what I mean by that. It can be really easy to start to think of getting to be a part of a church community as this added bonus on top of my life. Like it's this really great add-on, or it's the cherry on top of the sundae. But Jesus never intended for a relationship with him to just be an add-on to our life. He meant for it to be foundational and deeply transformative. And to miss out on that would be the greatest tragedy of all. So let me close with this final quote from a guy named Philip Brooks. This is what he said: "The great danger facing all of us," and let me say it again, for one feels it tremendously, "is not that we shall make an absolute failure of life, nor that we shall fall into outright viciousness, nor that we shall be terribly unhappy, nor that we shall feel that life has no meaning at all. It's not these things. The danger is that we may fail to perceive life's greatest meaning, fall short of its highest good, miss its deepest and most abiding happiness, be unable to render the most needed service, be unconscious of life ablaze with the light of the presence of God, and be content to have it so." That's the danger. That someday we may wake up and find that always we have been busy with the husks and trappings of life and have really missed life itself. For life without God, to one who has known the richness and joy of life with him, is unthinkable, impossible. That is what one prays one's friends may be spared. Satisfaction with a life that falls short of the best, that has in it no tingle and thrill which comes from a friendship with the Father. Guys, this is our task. We get to help people experience the very greatest life possible. And I am so glad to have you along on this journey.